Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease. Whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out, I believe dating can be fun, and I'm here to help you in the process. And I am so pumped to welcome back Amy Chan to the podcast. Amy is the founder of Breakup Bootcamp, and she's the author of a brand new book called Unsingle, which just came out this week. So I had Amy on the show like 2 years ago. Her episode is number 70. I will link it in the show notes. And we talked a lot about her book, her first book, Breakup Bootcamp, which changed my life. And so if you're going through a breakup right now, you also should definitely check out that book and that episode. And this time around, she again brings a really grounded, strategic approach to dating that cuts through all the noise. So I just love talking to her. And today you're going to hear Amy introduce the concept of the dating funnel, which is a 5-stage framework that helps you figure out exactly where things are breaking down so you can stop blaming things like the city you live in or your age and actually troubleshoot the right thing. We also get into why people skip the most important stage of the funnel, the difference between dating as a personality game and relationships as a character game, and how to know if you're over-icking yourself out of a real connection. Amy also shares why what attracts you in the beginning won't be what keeps you happy in the long term and what to optimize for instead. At the end, we answer a dating dilemma from someone who's had a crush on a coworker for 7 months and finally got the date, but now she wants to know how to take things slow. As always, I love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or thoughts on this episode, shoot me a DM on Instagram at dating.intentionally, drop a comment on Spotify, or send me an email at talia@datingintentionallypod.com. And if you prefer to watch these conversations, you can hang out with us on YouTube. Just search Dating Intentionally on YouTube and you will find my channel. All right, let's get to it. Amy, welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I am so excited that you're here for round 2.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Wait, do you have anything kind of big going on right now? Anything noteworthy in your life?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm in book launch journey right now, which is a lot.
Yeah, your book Unsingle comes out this week, the week that this will be released. And I want everyone listening right now to definitely check it out. It'll be linked in the show notes. But Amy, you open your book with something that really caught my eye, and that is you confidently say that most people are a few adjustments away from meeting their match. And I feel like that's very hopeful. So what gives you confidence to say this?
I think it's having worked with hundreds of people, some who were single for even a decade, some who never had a relationship in their lives. And they almost gave up on love because they're like, well, I'm not getting the results I want. I've gone on so many dates. When I dove in deeper with them, what I found was they were working hard. They were just working hard using the wrong strategy. And when you're not aware of some of these patterns that are happening and behavioral patterns that are actually blocking you from intimacy and connection, you keep repeating it and then you blame the city you live in, your age, or yourself for why you're not getting the results you want.
I mean, I think I'm like nodding along, like, yep, definitely have blamed the city before. Definitely love to like be like, well, men are the problem or women are the problem, whatever it is. But I guess it's like, how do we navigate this without being like, oh, it's just me. There's something wrong with me. I'm the problem. You know, like what's a healthy way to look at that?
I think that the internalizing there's something wrong with me is the approach of shame. It is really reframing it as in, hey, it's not that there's something fundamentally wrong with me and that I am broken, but there's a possibility there is a behavioral pattern that might be getting in my way. And that could be from the ways that we block intimacy by dismissing people too early, or the way that we, like won't give someone more than one date a chance, or we only optimize for a certain type of person or age range when we're on an app. Those are all behaviors that aren't necessarily, oh my gosh, there's something wildly wrong with your self-worth.
Right. I think the separation is so key because it's like sometimes it's hard to have this podcast without it being like, it's just you have to fix yourself, but it really is the kind of the surface level actions in a way. And you mentioned strategy earlier, and something that I've just love, like the second I saw what your book was about, I was like, oh my gosh, this is genius, is the idea of the dating funnel.
Mm.
So how did you come up with this idea of the dating funnel?
Yeah, because after working with so many people and also going through this journey myself, I found that the strategy you use based on where you are on the dating funnel is going to change. And so, for those of you who don't know what the
Okay,
dating
let's break it
funnel
down.
is, yeah, it's introduced in my book, but basically, imagine a triangle that's inverted. And then on the very top is prospecting. And this is just lead generation, right? It's going on apps, it's getting set up. And you don't want to have too strong of a filter to limit how many people are in your prospecting. And then we move to the next stage of the funnel, which is discovery. And that's dates 1 to 2. Now, what you do on dates 1 to 2 is going to be very different from what you do in dates, later down the funnel. And the third stage is evaluation. And this is dates 3 to maybe 20 or around 3 months, where you're really determining if someone has an alignment of values, timing, and only time and experience can give you that information. And some people who get really excited, they don't even bother with the evaluation stage. And then after that, we move into commitment. And then after commitment is retention, which is like a whole other book and retreat.
Of course, yes. Book 3 will be retention.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to break that down, so we have prospecting. What was the second one?
Discovery,
Evaluation, commitment, retention.
and then retention.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it really is like a funnel down to one, right? If you're a monogamous person that you're focusing on. Okay. So how does thinking in these stages, like how is this helpful, you think, for your clients and readers?
Yeah. So I know dating apps is just, it's rough out there. And so I'll have people who are like, Amy, I'm done. I'm just not going to bother, protect my peace. I'm just going to be single forever. And that's fine if you truly mean it, but often that comes from, I've been hurt and I'm so disappointed that I'm going to put up a defense mechanism and I'm just not going to risk anything. And when we look at, okay, wait a minute, where is it that you actually get stuck? And they're like, oh, no, I have no problem getting the dates. Yeah, dates 1 and 2, fine. I can get all of that. It's something happens, from dates 5 to 10. And so I'm like, okay, so you're not having a problem in discovery. So we want to look at what could possibly be happening in the evaluation stage. And we troubleshoot the right thing, because after working with so many people, human beings, we are pretty predictable in our behavioral patterns. So there's not that many different scenarios that are going on, right? And so I could distill it to be like, okay, so either there's something that's happening that's triggering your commitment and then you push them away or you start finding their faults, or you are clinging too heavily because of this and this. So once we figure out where are you getting stuck in the funnel, instead of throwing away dating altogether, we can then get specific and granular and then work on, okay, what's the next step in order to help you move through this?
I love it. It really breaks it down and makes it feel less overwhelming. You mentioned in your book that people really screw up with the evaluation phase that you said earlier. People will skip it entirely, go from discovery to commitment, right? They just skip it.
Yes.
And I think a lot of listeners can relate to that. I certainly can. What's an example of something you might adjust if someone is falling into this pattern of like there's something going wrong in the evaluation stage?
As in they go too quickly?
No, like let's just say that's just where they're tripping up, in general.
Okay. So what are the common scenarios if someone is they're able to get dates, but they're not able to move past that and turn that into something deeper? So one common scenario and pattern is they don't allow the relationship to go beyond the surface level. And this could be from the person who's always a jokester, who deflects with humor all the time, or who had a crutch of how they were validated. Maybe they're very pretty and they were told that their whole life, or maybe they're very successful and rich. And so they continue to use that as their way of, it worked for them to attract, but it doesn't work for a relationship to get deeper. They don't reveal anything else. So there's nothing else the other person can bond with. That's one example of a common scenario.
How would you know you're doing that though?
You can know by, I guess sometimes it's through feedback of what people are saying.
Mm,
If you yourself know, like when there's an emotional conversation, it makes you very uncomfortable. So you avoid it or you change the topic. And just having that awareness of what happens when someone is sharing. Do I
mm,
get like this kind of tightness in my chest and then I just crack a joke? Um, and I think it starts with that, right? I think the book
yeah.
helps you with some tools to help you identify. And then it's really up to you to be aware of these scenarios so that you can see like, oh, wait, I am doing that. And instead, I'm going to try this other tool or
Yeah.
tactic. Yeah.
I love the way you're looking at this. Where do you think you were stuck in the funnel when you were single?
So I really struggled with love my whole life. And we talked about this, when we talked about Breakup Bootcamp in our first episode together. So I read every book on seduction, psychology hacks, and I'm like, okay, like I'm going to go be the most attractive person, get the dates. And guess what? I learned how to hack attraction. It worked. I
Yeah.
totally went from being the girl who didn't get dates to getting a lot. I could get someone's interest, but it would always end at date 2. And the feedback I got was, I don't know, it just felt off. And they never
Mm,
knew what was going on. But I, now looking back, know my charade of being attractive and confident, people could sense that. People could sense
yep.
my performance. And inside, I didn't do the work. I was very insecure. I would play games to try to masquerade to show that I was more avoidant versus being extremely anxious and codependent. And that energy leaked out. So I had to learn, okay, I'm getting stuck in going past the discovery to evaluation and what is going on here.
That is so interesting. I think this is such a common trap, especially for men. I think a lot of
Mm,
guys who are trying to work on their dating skills end up listening to podcasts like this or books, and they end up performing interest,
yeah.
even if they are genuinely interested, even if they're genuinely trying to get into a relationship, there's still a performance aspect that a lot of,
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm noticing recently with people I've been talking to, of just like, there is this performance element. So how did you start to be more authentic, but also like feel confident in your ability to get dates while being more yourself?
Yeah, I feel like it was such a long journey and it took a lot of heartache, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't understand what was going on because men were attracted to me. They would have sex with me, but they wouldn't want to be with me. And that's fucking
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
It's like,
Um,
what?
Yeah. And I feel like I really had to do some deeper work of really building my internal sense of safety. So I wasn't outsourcing it to someone else to make me feel okay. I also used to gravitate towards men who had success and careers that I envied and I didn't have. And I think a part of me was using them as a means to an end. And like it really was like when I started my own business, when I started building a really full life of my own, some of that just naturally started to change. I started to feel very
Yeah.
comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's so insightful, especially about the career thing. That is so interesting. I think a lot of people don't have the courage or the tools sometimes to go that deep into like why they are why they're choosing the people they're choosing to get to know.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing your journey. In terms of the funnel, though, can you go backwards? Is it always linear?
So what do you mean? Can you be from
Like,
committed and go back into dating?
can you like, especially between evaluating and discovery, can you like oscillate between two? I don't know. I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, so something about discovery and why the strategy is so different from evaluation is when we don't know someone and we just go on that first date, we don't want to be trying to assess if they're going to be our forever partner. And you've had content about this as well, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
vibe check. It's not supposed to be like a 12-hour marathon date, although some of those happen, but like it's really like, let's just see if there's some level of connection here. We don't even need to know, is it romantic or sexual? Just like, do we want to like hang out? And if it's a yes, you go again. And instead of like trying to picture like, ooh, do they live in Tribeca or do they live in the Bronx? Like,
Yeah.
where can I put them into my strategy and plan? And it makes you present versus future tripping. And then evaluation is different because, okay, we know there's enough vibe check here. Now let's get to know each other through time and see like, do you really live up to the values you say that you have?
Yeah.
And like, can you go back to discovery? I think that, it's part of what I talk about when you're in the commitment and retention stage is we get so safe with our partner that we forget to date them. And so I think in
Yeah.
that sense, you can definitely go back into like, let's just inject some fun into our relationship and not make everything so serious.
I love that. I appreciate you kind of painting the picture of that because I agree that there is some overlap in the funnel. Another question I had about the funnel is the jump from evaluation to commitment. I feel like could also trip people up because that is such a terrifying moment when you're with someone new and it's like, okay, so are we doing this? So what's some advice you have if you're kind of stuck in that? Like you can evaluate, you can date someone for 3 months, but when it comes to commitment, it just is not happening.
Yeah, so there's kind of two main challenges that happen here. There is the person who might have more higher avoidance and they see commitment as like, oh my gosh, this is a life sentence, no refunds. And because that's so scary and so final, they just get completely flooded and they don't do anything at all. They just freeze. And so they stay in this perpetual, like, oh, let's keep it undefined. Let's just hang out sort of a vibe, but it can never go deeper. You can never go into a deeper level of intimacy and bonding. And then the other side of it is for people who really need a title or something to show like we're really in this. And sometimes they'll rush it before the relationship is actually even there. And so I think you need to know where you are on the spectrum to decide like, okay, what would be a healthier approach? And I think for those who kind of fear the commitment, there is this idea sometimes that we have to like know, like when do you just know like they're your match or they're the perfect person? You don't know. You don't get just a great person who lands on your lap and that's it. A relation goes from good to great because you're in relation and you're committed and you build together. That's what makes
Right.
it great versus I think this fantasy that it's just great off the bat and you just know it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was so helpful. I mean, the first step of knowing which one you are is so important. And the second thing you said of just, this is co-created. This is
Right.
not going to happen on accident. And I think it's really tough when I think a lot of people listening, what the frustration is, you find someone who passes the evaluation part of the funnel, but they still don't feel ready to really put in the work with someone.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that like they're a bad person or
Yeah.
they're not healed. It's just like they're not like they don't have the capacity. I don't know. There's just something there sometimes where and then
Yeah,
people can feel
and that's
really
okay
disappointed.
too. Yeah.
I know.
Where do you feel like you were in that spectrum?
I feel very similar to you. I think I was very stuck on the evaluating part for a while. And then I was more on that avoidance side of the spectrum where committing felt really scary, especially when I was in my late 20s, early 30s after my dating journey. And I was like, am I really going to actually get into a relationship after going on all these dates? It felt really scary.
Yeah.
And after that big breakup I had. So that was just a very big moment of fear. But I'm the kind of person where if I'm scared of something, it means I should do it.
Ooh.
That's just my relationship.
That's a great
with fear.
reframe for you.
Yeah. And obviously I'm not talking about dangerous things, like actually physically dangerous things, just like you can get out of a relationship.
Yeah.
It's really not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to get into a different spectrum that is mentioned in your book. I don't know about you, but the second the weather gets nice, I spend some time flipping my wardrobe, putting the cold weather stuff as far back in my closet as I can, and putting my warm weather stuff front and center. And with the new season, I love getting some new pieces, especially from Quince. I continue to go back to my Quince pieces every week, and it might have something to do with the fact that they use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra soft denim. I just picked up one of their linen dresses in an olive color, which is something I constantly want to reach for in my closet. Like, throw it on, it looks good, I don't have to overthink it. And I might grab this dress in another color because it's adorable and I can see it being great for summer vacations as well. Quince clothing tends to be very packable, easy to maintain, and everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not a brand markup. I love Quince's high quality and affordable pieces, and if you haven't tried them yet, what are you waiting for? Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/Talia for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Talia for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Talia. People always look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them this, but I am usually in bed by 9 p.m. and I wake up every day at 5:30 in the morning without an alarm clock. I know. I've always been a morning person, and what really helps me get a full 8 hours, even as an early riser, is having high quality bedding. We just upgraded our bed with Boll and Branch, and I'm never looking back. They make everything your bed needs and what you need for a solid night's sleep. Their signature cotton sheets, pillows, blankets, and comforters are all designed to be breathable, incredibly soft, and they get better over time. I'd recommend starting with the signature sheets, and while you're at it, get two so you can rotate them because washing bedding is a whole ordeal. We also added the waffle blanket. It's hard getting up sometimes because I am just so cozy in there. The biggest difference I notice is how breathable the sheets are, and I'm not overheating in bed. I definitely run hot at night, and having Boll and Branch sheets help me stay asleep, which is something that I've struggled with in the past. There's nothing worse than waking up because you're too hot or uncomfortable, and then you can't go back to sleep. And since we made the switch to Boll and Branch, I've been sleeping so well. Upgrade your sleep with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off your first order plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/dating with code dating. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/dating, code dating to unlock 15% off. Exclusions apply. So another spectrum that you talk about in Unsingle is the having no standards to over-icking yourself. Can you explain both ends?
Yeah. So if you scroll through social media, like you're bombarded with like red flags, right? Like that is the content that like the algorithm just loves and proliferates out there. And so I think it's really created a culture where we've almost overcorrected on the boundaries and red flags to the point where many of us are walking around with a big like steel wall around our heart, and we are looking for what could go wrong before what could go right. And so I think that's causing a lot of people to stay single. And I don't blame them, right? Like you also have culture and technology and like what's happening in the world, and like we just lack trust. And this can cause someone to be on this over icking spectrum where like you're going on a date, first hour's fine, you're laughing, and then they say something like, they don't read books, they only listen to podcasts. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with this person? And then they're banished to the ick list. Like I banished someone to the ick list because they wore sandals on the date. And I thought I was so cool for being like, oh my gosh. And like, no, how terribly superficial and not open for love was I? And so there's that part. And then I think the other side of that extreme is for people who don't have any standards at all. And they could be treated with disrespect. Someone can be super flaky and they keep tolerating it. And I think that is a very different position where you have to then be like, no, like, what are my boundaries? What are my deal breakers? And even if I'm really into someone, if they're not treating me with the respect that I deserve and we're not aligned in values, like it's a no, even if the chemistry is off the charts.
Yeah. And on that, I think the people on that side of the spectrum, from what I've experienced, who I've talked to, the vibe is that they feel like they can't afford to have these standards. They're just like, oh, I'm never going to find someone, so I need to be too open to accept any treatment and behavior when their gut is telling them like, hell no, this is not going to work.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is hard. And the over icking side of the spectrum, you kind of already mentioned this. I think, yeah, you're right. It is rooted in overprotection, lack of
Yeah.
trust, which is, I think you're right. I think this dating culture today, there is just not enough trust. It's sad.
Yeah.
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 Um, okay. So how do you help someone figure out which side of the spectrum they're on?
So I will first ask them things like, tell me about your dating profile parameters. And, I'll have a client, I have a lot of clients who are like, okay, Amy, I'm ready for love. Like, really, I want a family. I want a serious relationship. And then, like, usually this is a woman. Like, what's your, parameters for height? And they're like, oh, 6 feet and above. I'm like, oh, okay. You either think you're going to win the romantic lottery or you're just really bad at math, because 14% of men in America are 6 feet or taller. You take away the ones who are partnered, that drops to 7%. Your dating pool just turns into a puddle. So
Yeah.
I like that, to me shows like, oh, you're still operating from ego, right? And the same thing, a guy asked me today, is like, hey, will you match me? And his age range was 35 to 36.
What?
I'm like, oh, your age range is 1 year. That you want me to match you? I'm like, I'm not gonna match you.
How old was he though?
I'm like, he's 41. I'm like, the fact that you are saying you're serious about a relationship and you want a family and all these things, but you have a 1 year age range tells me something, and I will not match you. There's other stuff that needs to be done before you're going to get matched, because that person, the perfect person, can be in front of them and they will dismiss them because they're operating from their ego.
Yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit more because I think the ego thing is really hard. If you're someone who's listening and like you really, really want to find love, a partner, a family, just whatever you're looking for, but you're like, I'm dating someone great and I just can't get over his teeth. How do you move past the ego stuff?
I think that there is a combination of reality checking yourself. And when I say reality checking, it's also understanding like what actually matters in a long-term relationship, because I think many of us are drawn to sparkly things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are natural tendencies, and then there is like, okay, logically what makes sense? Because we know, due to something called hedonic adaptation, that thing that really, drew you in, their height, their status, their chiseled jawline, that will give you excitement for at max 2 years, because we adapt and then it becomes your new normal. So what drew you in, which was like, oh my gosh, they were so hot because of their six pack, you in 2 years, it doesn't do anything for you anymore.
Wow, I've never heard that, but it makes more sense.
Yeah. And then, but what matters in terms of a long-term relationship are things like how much your partner appreciates you, how committed they are, how well you handle conflict together. These are the quiet qualities. And so if you look at, okay, say I'm going to meet someone and I'm going to spend 50 years with them. Okay, 2 years of that will, the teeth, the hair, that stuff is going to matter. And then 48 years, that will not matter. So optimize for the thing that actually matters.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. And I'm sure some listeners are like, yes, I can get on board with that. But Amy, what if I'm just not attracted to them? Like, where does that piece come in? And how does that, it's like, where's the separation between genuine attraction and the ego part? Because it's like, well, I'm not attracted to him because whatever, like,
Yeah. And I think that attraction is important. And I think it also depends on what stage of your life. Like I have I have a client who's 78 years old. They're not like looking for the same type of attraction as they were in their 30s, right? They've been married 3 times. They have 6 kids. They're looking for a companion. The friendship part of it is a lot more important. And now, like, if you're in your 30s, you're like, no, like sexual attraction, hot body, super important to me. Like, I'm not going to say don't have that. I think that there needs to be a level of attraction, physical attraction, but there's also many different forms of chemistry. There's emotional, there's intelligent, and you have to decide what, part of the chemistry pie, how much of that is physical.
yes.
And is there any, leeway there? And if you're like, no, then I'm like, okay, keep doing your thing and good luck.
Yes. I mean, like I can share kind of how it worked for me, because I had a click or a shift moment in my dating journey. And it was just kind of like, okay, I'm actually not like, physical attraction is important, but I'm not having sex with my partner every second we're together. Like it doesn't, the sex part is important, but it's not, it's like, how can I equate this to the actual amount of time we're going to be having sex? It's like, okay, like a little bit of the pie is going to be that part of our relationship. What is the rest of the pie? And like, you know, that to me was kind of the mental shift I made of like, oh, maybe I should optimize for the bigger part of the pie, while of course keeping in mind the slice that's the sex part.
Yeah, I love that. We need a mathematician to like really break it down.
I know. So another thing I read in the book that I also just really stood out to me was that you made the distinction that dating is a personality game, but maintaining a relationship is a character game. And we kind of got into that a little bit when you were saying earlier about the performance of getting a date and how that worked for you. But can you unpack this a little bit more? Like, how do we have to be good at both? You know, what's that
about? So I think when we're dating, it is very normal to be wowed by the person who's charismatic and charming and funny and, you know, knows all the things about culture. And we are like, wow, this person we had such an amazing date. And because we had an amazing date and we were so wowed or impressed by them, we then sometimes translate that into thinking they're going to be an amazing partner. But, you know, dating is a personality game. Maintaining a relationship is a character game. And they're two different skill sets, because you know who's really great at dating? Narcissists, sociopaths. They're great at it. They lack the other part. And ideally, of course, you'd love to have someone who has both, but don't get blindsided because someone is just wowing you on your first few dates or love bombing you. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is romance. It's exactly what I saw on Sex and the City. And therefore it's happening to me. And then you get conned, which is what happened to me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, okay. How can we stay grounded in like getting to know someone's character when we're wowed by the personality?
It requires time. And the evaluation stage, there's no way around it. Even if you're really excited and you want to just bypass it, you don't know someone until you've seen them under stress, until you've seen how they interact with their friends, your friends. When you disagree, and how do they repair? These aren't things that you can quickly just, you know, whiz through and figure out. So putting yourself in different experiences with them, scenarios, even going on that weekend trip, and then just seeing how they show up.
Yeah. I mean, I am constantly giving advice like that on my podcast, on my page, just like different activities, different scenarios. I recently was like, go take a long road trip with someone and like get lost. Like, just throw out the map and see what happens. Yeah. I fully agree. What happens though when I'm getting to know someone, I'm in the evaluation stage and the personality shine starts to wear off and I'm like, I don't know if I like them?
I think part of like, you know, one of the exercises I have in the book is to look at what are the top core values that are important in a partner. And what are your non-negotiables? And then what are your preferences? And so I think sometimes we get it confused, and we could take something that's a preference, like, oh, I don't know if I like them. Like, I actually like love skiing and I'm more of an introvert and they're not. And, you know, I don't know if I like them. Those are preferences. They're not non-negotiables. If you look at the research, if they like skiing, if you have the same hobbies, actually makes no difference in a stable or happy relationship. Introvert extrovertism also has no, you know, change in how happy you'll be. So you have to look at like, do they have the core values? And also like, where are you at? If you used to like them and then suddenly you don't, like, is it because they've changed? Or do you have ADHD and you blew all of your dopamine load up in the very beginning and then now you have nothing left, which is a real thing. Your reward circuits are wired differently. So you have to also take a look at, okay, what is my own pattern of behavior? Has this happened before where I'm excited and after 2 months, once I've got them, I no longer feel excited? Well, maybe that's signaling there's something else going on here.
Yeah, I love that you're saying this. And one thing that makes me think of is like reminding myself, I'm not having a relationship to be entertained. I'm not having a relationship to provide excitement in my life. That's not the point. Right. And so it's like, okay, it's normal to feel excited about someone new in your life who's bringing you a lot of joy and like that honeymoon phase, like just the all those feelings in the beginning. And then, yeah, those are going to wear off. It doesn't mean that you don't like them. Just that's kind of a natural progression of a relationship. And the character, which is what you're saying, is what takes the place of the personality as the priority.
Yeah. I love what you just said. Like, you're not outsourcing your entertainment. Go watch Netflix.
Yeah. Seriously. Or go watch Amy's Instagram, which is very entertaining. So many hot takes. And for someone who's struggling with more on the personality side of the game, I get a lot of messages from people who are like, I can't get past the second date. They said no spark. They said no romantic connection. Does that mean that they have to be doing something different, or they just haven't found the right person they click with?
I think that I don't think it's about they haven't found the right person. I do feel like this is where strategy comes in play, right? So this is where I would work with a client and be like, okay, so you're having your dates where you're having coffee and you're sitting across from each other. Okay, bad idea. If you are finding that your dates aren't feeling a connection with you, there's reasons why that's happening. Number one, people feel connection and they feel spark when they're talking, when they're self-disclosing. So are you asking questions that allow them to disclose personal information and self-disclose? Number two, do an activity where your heart rate is actually moving and maybe you're not going like face to face, but you're side by side. Going on a walk. I don't know, like doing something that is like more active. That could be also a really great way because you're actually feeling the physiological symptoms of attraction. So there's different ways that you can work through that. And like your personality might not shine because maybe you are a bit more shy or introverted. And so like you're not making it through the filters on an online app or a first date or a mixer. So, okay, with that person, I would say we need another source of lead generation, and you need to do something and sign up for something where you will be exposed to the same group of people over a period of time. And that will allow you to feel more comfortable. And what will happen is, due to the mirror exposure effect, the base feeling will be amplified the more you see someone. So if you're connecting with someone that maybe it's not romantic off the bat, but they like thought you were really cool and they thought you were friendly, that could actually grow into something more.
Yes. Oh, wait, these tips are amazing. I love how practical that is and approachable. And so you're saying like to be in the same environment over and over. That's like joining a rec league sport or like a meetup group that meets regularly, stuff like that.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's also like, again, listeners, like this is why work relationships happen, work crushes happen, because you're just seeing the same person or someone in class, maybe someone you're eyeing at picking up your kids every afternoon. It's like, oh, there's that person again. It's like, that's how it works. And I love that advice because I think there are a lot of amazing people out there who just can't break through with the personality game because everyone's out here looking for sparks and butterflies and they're missing great connections.
Yeah, human beings like what is familiar, and that's across the board, whether it's food, music, or people. So if you're only having one-off interactions, there's no chance for someone to be familiar with you. So yeah, sign up for something that is going to be 2 months and you see them every single week, and there's hopefully opportunity for you to interact, and you'll probably have more luck. So you need to, again, like when I work with a client, I look at where are they at, right? Where are they already strong? If they are a bright, shiny object, yeah, great. Go to those networking events. People are going to come up and talk to you. Amazing. But for the other people who aren't going to have all these people just come up to them, like, okay, we're just going to be adding different ways so that people can finally get to know you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And on that, I'm curious, like in terms of I know a lot of people are ditching dating apps and, leveraging more in-person opportunities. For the ladies listening, what do you think the strategy should be if you're focusing on your prospecting stage off the apps?
Ooh, yeah. So what I always say for stage prospecting, always have 3 sources of lead generation. So if you're cutting out apps completely, that's totally fine. But then you're going to have to consciously determine what are my sources. And that could be like, okay, once a month, me and my friend, we're going to host a dinner and you bring one single friend. And that's it. And like, no pressure. Yeah. It's going to be a fun thing. If I don't meet a romantic prospect, then at least I'll meet friends. And again, mirror exposure effect. Number 2, maybe I'll work with a matchmaker. Number 3, like I'll go to a dating retreat. So it is really about being intentional, right? When we have a goal that we want, we don't just expect it to land in our lap. We wouldn't do that with our careers. We go like, how am I going to get it? Who do I need to talk to? What plan do I need to have? And then you take the steps to make it happen. But I always say, and I say this in the book, you have to be responsible for 100% of your 50%. And after you've done that, you can be like, the rest is up to the universe. It is out of my control, but I will never look back and say, I didn't get what I wanted because I didn't try.
Yes. I feel like you just really described my entire podcast, Dating Intentionally, really well with that. Like, this is what you want. Align your actions with that. And yeah, like you have to check all of the boxes that you can check for yourself. And the rest is kind of up to luck and timing and chance and all those things. Mm-hmm. I love it. What didn't make it into the book?
That's such a good question. I had a whole chapter that was cut out about a sociopath and basically how I learned how to tell if someone's a sociopath. That didn't make it in.
Can you share a little bit about that? Can we get a taste of what that was?
Yeah. I remember on our first date, this guy took me to a really fancy restaurant. And I remember like he was polished, dressed like to the nines. And there was something about his eyes. And I just remember just making a joke. I'm like, oh, there's just something about you I can't read. Like you could be a sociopath or something. And we just laughed it off. And this guy ended up being a hardcore con artist. But he did all the things. He bought me flowers. He like took me to fancy restaurants. And then suddenly he would forget his wallet. And then this trip he wanted to take me on. Oh, can I just put it on your credit card? And then came to ask for a check. Like, it was just these things that I kept ignoring because I'm like, I really wanted a relationship. I was single for so long. Here's a guy who's good looking. He's good on paper. He's making effort. Just take him. Just take him.
Wow.
And I overrode my instincts and I learned the hard way.
Wow. Okay. I'm sad that didn't make it into the book because I feel like that's one really valuable lesson for readers. And two, just fascinating. How long ago did that happen before you met your husband?
Oh, that was when I was living in Vancouver the first time, 10 years ago. Yeah.
And was that like before Breakup Bootcamp Guy or like?
It was before.
Okay, so that was before even that. Oh my God, that's terrifying though.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. Oh, no. It was after. Oh. It was after the Breakup Bootcamp Guy. Yeah.
Okay.
But I never got duped ever again after that.
Yeah. How did you end it?
Well, he asked me for a check of $10,000. And when I asked him for collateral, I was like, okay, cause we fought over it. And I'm like, fine, give me your watch and as collateral, and then I'll give you the check. And we got in a huge fight. And he's like, I don't believe you, Amy. Like I don't believe you don't trust me. You're making me feel so blah, blah. And then afterwards, I don't know. I took the check and I threw it and I gave it to him. And, I was like, yeah. And then I found out, like, I for some reason, I Googled his name this time with the word fraud. And there was a whole website that came up with his face on it. And apparently he scams all these people. And so I called the bank to stop the check. But then I didn't want him to do anything crazy. So I was just like, hey, babe, like, you know what? I'm not feeling good about it. Blah, blah. Don't cash it. He ignored me, took another girl to New York, tried to cash the check.
Oh my God, Amy, what? That is wild. That is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
What are some takeaways from that you would want listeners to have from like, so they don't ever get into that situation?
I think building your intuition is so important and it's a muscle. And so these situations, hopefully they don't happen to you, but it taught me, like I learned, oh, that signal, there's this deadness in the eyes. Take that as something. There's these little things that your subconscious is picking up about someone that they're not trustworthy. And so because of that happening, I've learned that lesson. And I feel like that was a small price to pay because who knows, if I didn't learn that lesson, it could have been a much bigger lesson later on. So if it's happened to you, don't hate yourself for it, but just kind of look back and be like, what did I miss? So I don't miss it next time. And don't override that, gut feeling because you want something badly.
Yes. And also I want to point out, like, yeah, I'm so glad you didn't take this experience as a sign to never date, to swear off men, to never trust anyone again. It's like, no, how can I strengthen my intuition and what can I learn to like see the signs earlier and just run and not even continue. So Wow. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to take a quick break and then get into our someone else's dating dilemma. All right, Amy, I have a dating dilemma for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I, 26 female, have had a crush on someone at work, 35 male, for 7 months. Throughout these months, we've hung out in the office, during lunches, and on happy hours. There's your mirror exposure effect. It was an unspoken flirtatious and cheeky dynamic between us, and I never fully went for it because I was nervous to date someone at work and feel trapped in a potential relationship. I got laid off last week. I'm okay. And I texted him pretty soon afterwards and I asked him out. He texted me hard yes, and that there have been several times in the past that he almost asked me out. Our first date was Monday, and it was a lot steamier and intimate than expected. We made out heavily, and it was just really passionate. Deep eye contact, constantly saying how awesome this is. We both want to take it slow, but I'm not sure how, because we already know each other and have been flirting for 7 months consistently. I'm catching feelings for him, even though we only went on 1 to 2 dates. Any advice for taking it slow when you've already known someone a long time before dating?
Yeah, I get it. There's all that pent up energy and now it's just bursting. And of course you want to eat the person up. So I understand that. And you know the person through one lens, which was professional. So I think you need to understand that you don't really know him yet and you don't get to skip the evaluation stage. And so if you know that you're like, okay, I want to really give this a fighting chance, you're never going to burn the relationship because you're taking you're having, taking more time to get to know the person. That's not going to cause any, friction in the relationship. It'll only probably build more desire. So you can say to yourself, like, okay, I think 2 to 3 dates a week, whatever that feels comfortable for you. But if you're going in the 4, 5, 6 date territory, you're skipping the evaluation stage.
You mean like 4 to 5, 6 dates in a week?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're seeing them way too often.
Yes.
Okay, you're just rushing it. Okay, got it. So you're saying one strategy for going slow is just kind of not diving into I'm seeing you every single day, more 1 to 3 dates max per week.
You don't want to just suddenly act like you're in a relationship, which I think can happen, especially when you have familiarity. And that can be like from how often you see each other to texting constantly. Like you have to understand, like we are still deciding, like we have a lot of chemistry. There's a lot of potential, but we both don't know if we want to, have enough alignment here to turn it into something more committed. So, in that lens, you have to treat this person not as like, we already got this in the bag.
Right. So you're basically saying like you still have to go through the process of getting to know someone, even if you already know them in one context. You don't know them in the other context. Just because they're a good coworker doesn't mean they're going to be a good co-pilot, co-whatever. Yeah. Co-creator of a relationship. Yeah. So I love that advice. I mean, what's your advice for this person if they're like, oh my God, I'm just crushing so hard on them. I can't believe and maybe they're scared of screwing it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could happen here.
I think there could be a little bit putting them on a pedestal, and maybe it's happening both ways, right? But you can only be controlling what you can. And you have to be careful of that, you might have built up this person in your head. And then the only way they can fall off that pedestal because you learn that they're a imperfect human being. So I think that whole future tripping and fantasizing and filling in the blanks with how amazing this person is, you don't know. You need to go through stress together, see how it is then, when you disagree and how well they collaborate. But again, you need to go through different experiences to get to know someone. And when you catch yourself just in La La Land, fantasizing about this person, do something, use a tool to get you back into the present.
Perfect. I love that advice. And how do you feel about work relationships in general? Let's just say they started dating before she got laid off. How do you feel about that?
I mean, look, if it's not against HR policy, it's a very common scenario. It's why a lot of workplace affairs happen in the workplace. I think it would be wise to have a conversation up front about what will happen if things don't work out. It's almost like a prenup, but you're not splitting assets, but you're just like, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to commit to doing it this way so that if anything happens, we could still work here and it's not going to be miserable and hell.
Yeah, I feel like as long as this person wasn't her boss or he was, if there was some kind of direct report happening here, I think it's fine. And I kind of wish that she made a move earlier. Like there's a lot of situations where it's totally fine to date a coworker, again, like depending on the policy, like you said, and depending on if you can have a mature conversation about what would happen if things didn't work out. But also it's like, don't assume it's going to work out. Mm-hmm. You still have to do the process of getting to know each other.
Yeah. And I think like for people who have, whether it's at work or a friend, like they have this long crush and they're just not saying anything, it is typically better to address it up front right away versus having a year go by and then you build up this person in your head. That's usually not a great strategy.
Yeah. Also imagine if he found someone else and like was off the market, but he was interested in you, just go for it. Go shoot your shot. Yeah. Amy, we have to wrap this up, but I am just so appreciative of all the wisdom you shared with us today. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners about just modern dating in 2026? And how they can better navigate it?
I think like I'm going to try to create this analogy. If you are wanting a really good meal and you go to a restaurant and you get this meal and it's absolutely delicious and you go home and you're like, wow, what a great meal. I'm so satiated. How amazing. Had a great time. Does it matter if they use the rock salt or the Himalayan salt? It doesn't. And I think that this comes when it comes to love. We say we want a relationship. We want love. We want a deep friendship and a companion. Does it matter if they have blonde hair or black hair? If they are 40 or they're 45? If they're 5'6" or they're 5'10"? Like, it doesn't matter. If you get that love and what you're looking for, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So I don't know if that analogy works, but
no, you nailed it. You nailed it.
The right person is there and we are not seeing them.
Yeah, a good meal is a good meal. Yeah, I love it. Amy, thank you so much. Where can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, my Instagram is at Miss Amy Chan, and you can get bonuses for my book if you go to missamychan.com/unsingle.
Love it. Thank you so much, Amy. So what did you think? What are your biggest takeaways? I'm so curious because this episode was full of them. You can drop a comment below if you're on Spotify or shoot me a DM on Instagram. I love hearing from you. So personally, I loved Amy's point about dating being a personality game, but relationships are more of a character game. And that is so important to remember because the person who wows you on that first date just isn't necessarily going to show up that way when things get hard and as you get to know them more. Charisma isn't necessarily character, and the evaluation stage of her funnel exists for a reason. So I hope you know after listening to this that you've got to stay in that evaluation stage a little longer, even if things feel really promising early on. I also loved her analogy at the end about the meal. If you get the deep friendship, the companionship, the attraction, and the real partnership you're looking for, does the color of their hair or their height or their exact age really matter? Probably not. The right person, could already be out there, someone you're talking to, and you're just not seeing them because you're worried about something on the surface, right? That doesn't actually matter in the long run. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for trusting me. Don't forget you're doing great. And if you know someone who is navigating dating and could use a fresh perspective, share this episode with them. And if this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This is Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.